Hello there, it's a beautiful good morning and a warm welcome to Camnet TV Breakfast Edition. This morning, your host, I am Kapitula Afias, and we're glad that you could find time to join us. Happy holidays, I must say, and happy Easter to all those who are celebrating. Let's remember that these holidays are Christian holidays and our activities must be in line with that. However, right about now, we move into the first segment, which is the Health Corner. Catch me after that.
Hi everyone, welcome to the Health Corner here on the Breakfast Show. My name is Dr. Nakubianamfaya. So this week we are talking about typhoid fever, and we talked about what is typhoid fever. We say that it's a diarrheal disease that is caused by a bacteria called Salmonella typhi or Salmonella paratyphi. Then we also say that it's transmitted through the fecal-oral route, and usually persons who have the infections can be able to pass the bacteria through the stool, and if a person has infected hands and they touch the food that you're eating and you ingest that food, you can be able to get the infection as well. Then we also talked about people who live in certain areas where there is a sewer. They can also get this infection through drinking contaminated water. Then we also talked about some of the signs and symptoms. We say that people with typhoid fever would have fever, and this fever usually progresses every single day. So it increases in severity every single day. The other thing is that they would have abdominal pain. They would also have constipation or diarrhea. So they might have constipation first and then diarrhea later, or they might only have constipation, or they might only have the diarrhea alone. The other thing is they would have body pains, body weakness, joint pains. They would also have rose spots. So these are like rashes that would develop on the abdomen or on the trunk, and these rashes would be red in color, and they would signify that there's a bacteria that has infected the skin of these patients. Then we talked about how it's diagnosed and treated. We say that usually they would need to do cultures of the stool, the urine, and the blood as well. Treatment is based on the antibiotics that work in that particular area or in that particular hospital, because places are different, and based on the types of sensitivities that are there, then they would be able to recommend a bacteria, an antibiotic for you to use. The other thing is that you need to replenish fluids for these patients and give them a good, soft, nutritious diet that will provide them with good nutrition to help them recover. They would also need to keep or observe good hygiene to prevent infecting other people. So today we'll talk about prevention. How can you prevent yourself from getting this infection? So first of all, you need to understand that if somebody is sick in your house, you need to advise them to observe good hygiene so that they can wash their hands every time they use the toilet, and even anybody else in the house. Make sure that they are washing their hands every time they use the bathroom. And also, if you're in public areas, make sure you wash your hands every time you use the bathroom or every time you greet other people. Before you eat your food, always wash your hands. And also cover your food every time you have leftover foods. Don't leave your food exposed, and risk of contaminating the food from other carriers like flies can increase. So make sure you cover your food and protect your food. The other thing is, if you are in a place where you drink water from the borehole, try to boil the water. Try to boil it before you can drink the water. So drink boiled water or chlorinated water so that you prevent yourself from getting this infection. The other thing that you need to do is avoid being in overcrowded places. If you stay in an overcrowded place, then observe good hygiene, or if you're in overcrowded places, in an overcrowded place, observe good hygiene. So typhoid fever can cause many complications in the body, so it's important that we protect ourselves. It can cause what we call a perforation in the intestines, and this can be very risky and can call for you to go for an operation. So you need to protect yourself and protect other people as well by observing good hygiene. The other thing is that it can cause nerve problems and psychiatric problems. So if it's not treated promptly, you can end up having complications in the nervous system where somebody has paralysis and other complications of the nervous system. So make sure you get treatment early. Take your loved ones to the hospital as soon as possible and get treated for typhoid, because it's possible for it to be treated and it's possible for you to stay clear of this infection. So I do hope you have learned something today. Make sure you watch again next week here on the Breakfast Show on the Health Corner. I am Dr. Nakubia Namfaya. If you have any questions, you can reach out to me on Facebook at Dr. Nakubia Namfaya. And if you missed any other episodes, you can watch my YouTube videos. That is Dr. Nakubia Namfaya as well. I'll see you again next time. Remember to stay healthy and stay blessed.
That is the Health Corner there, right there, and hope you have picked one or two lessons just talking in terms of prevention of typhoid, which is a waterborne disease, and these are diseases which are with us, especially in our communities and in our homes. So prevention is very important. Remember that you're watching Camnet TV Breakfast Show in case you're just joining us. And this morning, our topic of discussion, our focus rather, we are talking about the debt restructuring deal, which was announced. This is in terms of the private debt, which was held by the Eurobond holders, $3.5 billion US, which has been dragging. And on Monday, it was announced by the Eurobond steering committee, the external Eurobond steering committee, rather, that government had reached an agreement with the committee in terms of restructuring in 3 parts of the 3.5 billion Eurobond. Later on the program, we're going to have an economist who are going to help us delve into this discussion, and also a little bit later we're going to open some phone lines. But remember, today is Easter, and you can also come through and share your Easter messages, as well as just how you're celebrating this day. Just about now, we move into the money markets. There you have it. The US dollar is buying at 24 kwacha 66 ingwe, selling at 25 kwacha 15 ingwe. The euro there is buying at 26 kwacha 67 ingwe, selling at 27 kwacha 19 ingwe. The South African rand is buying at 1 kwacha 30 ingwe, selling at 1 kwacha 33 ingwe. The Great British pound is buying at 31 kwacha 18 ingwe, selling at 31 kwacha 8 ingwe. Those are the money markets over 7 hours, and remember that these do vary from bank to bank, and they are not static. This moment they can be this, and that moment they can change. However, those are money markets for now. Right about now, we are moving into zooming stories, but before I do that, I just want to pick out something from social media, and specifically from the Facebook page of the #1 citizen, who is the President of the Republic of Zambia, regarding the Easter celebrations, where the President has shared the Easter message to citizens. Let me just find that one and I read it out for you. So the president is saying the essence of Easter transcends the narrative of death, embodying instead the promise of eternal life, the triumph over defeat, and the illumination of hope and joy over despair and sorrow. This holy occasion marks the monumental display of love and reconciliation as the Son bridged the vast divine, bringing us closer to the Father. As one nation under one God and as individuals, we are inspired by Easter's core message, Jesus' unwavering commitment to us, to his Father, our God, enduring death, so that it might not separate but rather unite us more deeply with God. Together we embrace the spirit of Easter, welcoming its teachings of gratitude, reconciliation, hope and love into our hearts and loyalty to our nation. May this Easter rekindle within us as a nation a dedication to diligence in hard work, and reinforce the timeless values of unity and peace in our nation. That is a message that I've extracted from the Facebook page of the Republican President, Mr. Hakainde Hichilema, this morning, as we, as a nation, reflect on the crucifixion, the death and the resurrection of Jesus Christ on this day, which is a Holy Friday. Right about now, we go into zooming off stories, and we start with the Easter story, where some citizens have expressed security concerns, as well as the police and the clergy, giving us a message on this Easter as regards to the conduct as we commemorate these holidays. So some residents in Lusaka have appealed to the police to heighten patrols ahead of the Easter celebrations commencing Friday, March 29, 2024. In an interview with Camnet News, one of the residents, Kumwenda Pitson of Lusaka's Bowling compound, has noted the rise in theft cases, especially amidst the ongoing power outages. Meanwhile, Evangelical Fellowship of Zambia, through Executive Director Bishop Andrew Mwenda, has urged the public to refrain from illegal activities and instead use the Easter period for self-reflection and alignment with Christian principles. We can zoom into that story.
Euphoria is kicking in as people brace themselves for the much anticipated long weekend of Easter holidays, meant for Christians to celebrate the resurrection of Jesus Christ. At the peak of these holidays, there are obviously activities that will either be positive or negative for some, given the many accidents, theft, killings, and other illicit activities during these holidays. Residents in Lusaka have expressed concern about the inadequate security measures in various communities, calling for heightened security, especially in light of load shedding in urban areas.
You find that 3/4 usiku tenga tibe malaiti, then akaenda malaiti you find that bakawala bavuta, you find that futi malaiti akaenda tibe na manzi. So basically what matenda yakula. Then people na wakawala futi amene bapakirako. Why? Because we are taking opportunity, because it could be malaiti. You find that you're mzuwa, by this time mzuwa so ngati kulizuwa mundu asanga tunde anyhow, but kukache fins kukala blackout ama tunda pena pale ponse because kwankala fins. So na hivi bakawala majanki bafana we are taking opportunity ngati malaiti aende kuti kubera abantu, but which is not okay. So tipemba ko security kukuliwa police kuti watandizile pamoja.
Another resident, an online taxi operator, Jacob Shimabanse, has urged his fellow drivers to take precaution when responding to bookings during the night to avoid falling prey to criminals.
Manje, as we planning to celebrate the life of Jesus Christ and other stuff during the long weekend, na wakawala na hivi hapo anafuti boat to attack. So, as a driver myself, even to those drivers, those are going out, let's be load conscious. Also, to drink and driving and stuff, let's be conscious per load. Yeah, for example, most of my weekends, my accidents, you see because kusamwa.
Meanwhile, Evangelical Fellowship of Zambia, through Executive Director Bishop Andrew Mwenda, has urged the public to reflect on their Christian life so as to solidify their Christian journey.
Even if you are not a Christian, I want you to know that you can still celebrate Easter because you are spared by the grace of God. That's what it is. So I want again to conclude by encouraging all the Zambians today rather beginning tomorrow, that can we sit back at home? Can we go to church and just begin to reflect and think over our lives? Are we walking in love with one another? Because the going to the cross of our Lord Jesus Christ is a showing forth of the love of God for his people, for the people that he created, whom the devil cheated or made to sin and went away there.
For the Zambia Police Service, members of the public should desist from engaging themselves in illicit activities to avoid coming into conflict with the law, as patrols will be intensified during the Easter period.
Intensify patrols around the Easter holiday. And what we have done is we concentrate ourselves in crime-prone areas. So those areas will be patrolled, especially in the night. So those members of the public who are bent to commit crimes, they should know that as police, they are equal to the task. We shall meet them. And those also who are in the habit of vandalizing ZESCO facilities.
Chanda Mwango for Camnet News in Lusaka.
All right, that is the Easter story that we did there in the news yesterday, and it's giving us three perspectives there from the community, the church, and the police. And the church is urging us that even if you're not a Christian, remember that you can observe these holidays. The grace of Jesus Christ is sufficient for everyone. Moving on, we get to business, and I'm bringing in the story of on the standard of living, where the center, rather the Jesuit Center for Theological Reflection, JCT, our latest report on a rise in the cost of living for a family of 5 has risen to approximately 10,600 kwacha, up from 10,300. That is JCTR Development Officer there in the Economic and Development Department, Juliet Sikalumba, emphasized that effort to tackle the rising cost of living should be government's priority at the moment. Another story is Zamstat, where the country's inflation for the month of March 2024 has increased to 13.7% from 13.5% recorded in February. Speaking at the monthly statistics review, Zambia Statistics Agency acting statistician Choladaka notes that this increase indicates a 13.7% rise in prices of goods and services between March 2023 and March 2024.
The instability of the kwacha, coupled with the surging inflation, has continued to contribute to the high cost of living. According to Jesus Center for Theological Reflection, basic needs and nutrition basket for a family of 5 now stands at about 10,600 kwacha from the recent 10,300 kwacha recorded in February.
The Jesuit Center for Theological Reflection observed an increase in the basic needs and nutrition basket in the month of March, which now stands at 10,603 kwacha.40 ngwe. This signifies a 2.9% increase in comparison to the month of February. The increase in the basket was due to the increase in prices of food items such as
Some residents of Lusaka have expressed mixed reactions following the continued increase in the cost of the food basket. A trader at Lusaka's Chilenje market, Sylvia Banda, explained to this journalist that the cost of doing business has drastically increased with dewent profits.
Ekirengeza kuti vintu vidule ni fuel is very high. That's why manjari yesafuna kuti profit apezeka profit we order apezeka profit we order apezeka ka profit. That's why vintu vonse zili high. No ibira po 10,000 every month. Ni mahivera hapo japo kuti 10 pini ni karibu no ibere ngapo na mmaji. Saka ya unga pena kula pole ni kutela tima pimi ni mapimisa chapeka pamela.
For Watson Piri, another trader, the economic situation can only improve if fuel pump prices are reduced. He adds that he's unable to afford a bag of mealie meal as his business is not rewarding as much.
meals. Unaweza kuja na 3 meals, which means na 10,000 you're still pays about 10,000. Kapena chiverengera chazi kuti na I think na 4,000 yabende na even olo 6 tikwanisa olo pang'ono. Chamene tinga pempe uko nchakuti kaya mwamene vangatitandizire ngati vazatitandizira bwanji ngati tizatandizikira bwanji kaya mwamene tizatandizikira ine kuli ine mwandi tikwanisa ero pamibapa ngati liko vambiri tuli almost 8 so 8 yo nikamba pano vana lero vadya porridge lunch sivazaji ndiye pamene vazamwa kuchape kuchina mapazi tubiri.
The residents have since appealed to government to consider the price of commodities and mealie meal on the market. It can only be hoped that with the sealed debt restructuring deal, the high cost of living will begin to see a downward trend for the citizens to breathe a sign of relief. Prudence Chibwe for Camnet News, Lusaka.
Zambia's monthly inflation rate has continued to surge from 13.5% in February to 13.7% in March. Given an overview of the country's statistics, Zambia Statistics Agency, ZAMSTAT's acting statistician Chola Daka says the annual inflation rate for March increased to 13.7% from 13.5% recorded in February 2024.
Annual inflation has increased to 13.7% in March 2024 from 13.5% recorded in February 2024. This means that on average, prices of goods and services increased by 13.7% between March 2023 and March 2024.
Addressing journalists in Lusaka Thursday, Mrs. Daka says that the monthly food inflation rate for March was recorded at 2.4% compared with 2.3% recorded in February 2024. She says this is attributed to the general price movement of bread, cereals, mealie meal, maize grain, rice, meat, and vegetables.
Food inflation for February 2024 increased to 2.4%, and this is mainly attributed to general price increases in bread and cereals, meats, and vegetables. In contrast, the monthly non-food inflation declined to negative 0.3 from 2.2%, and this is on account of decreases in prices of the purchase of motor vehicles.
Mrs. Daka also adds that the industries with the highest growth rates were the arts, entertainment and recreation industry with 39.2% growth rate, followed by the information and communication activities industry at 28.8% and accommodation and food service activities industry with 25.7%. But in contrast, the agriculture, forestry and fishing, mining and administrative support services industry growth rates shrunk in the month of March.
Which had the highest growth. Arts, entertainment and recreation recorded the highest growth at 9.2%, followed by information and communication at 28.8%, and accommodation and food and services at 25.7%. Other industries which actually had shrunk, agriculture and forestry and fishery, that's negative 9.1%, while mining shrunk by 5.8%, and administrative and support services declined by negative 5.7%.
Cherish Sibote for Camnet News, Lusaka.
Agreements reached with official creditors and the bondholders imply that of the debt which is subject to restructuring, about 75% of that debt has been restructured.
Zambia's clinching of a conclusive agreement with the External Bondholder Steering Committee over the restructuring of the $3.5 billion US Eurobond has continued to receive mixed reactions. Whilst economists and others in the sector are seeming in consensus on the positive impact of the deal on the country's economy, the agreement in the political sphere has seen tough scrutiny, with many in the opposition welcoming it with caution. In a dramatic turn of events, the former ruling party, the Patriotic Front PF, is said to be claiming the deal as quoted by a named local newspaper. Commenting on the 2024 Eurobond agreement, Lusaka-based political activist Dante Santos has, however, urged opposition political parties to give credit where it is due. Speaking in an interview, Mr. Santos says regardless of who started the process, the current president and his government should be congratulated for putting the country on a right trajectory economically.
People that are talking about they started the process. Anyone can say we started the process, but the bottom line, it was never ever met. There was no progress at all. These are one of the reasons why the people of Zambia threw them out of office. But the bottom line is they never ever delivered, and we would have been a failed state today. So they must give credit to where credit is due.
Mr. Santos has expressed optimism that with the debt restructuring deal sealed, the country will soon see better social and economic performance.
That the direction we are taking with UPND is the right direction, and it is good for the country, and it's good to boost the economy of this country, whether politically, socially, and economically, all three in one. We are moving away from people pointing fingers at us. Even our image abroad, thanks to UPND, is changing drastically. People are saying, yes, the Zambian people are trying.
For Camnet TV News, Afias Kaptula, Lusaka. You're watching Camnet TV Breakfast Show, and we've just been zooming our headlines. However, those stories were driving us into the topic of discussion this morning. We are looking at Zambia's debt restructuring process, which on Monday received a major boost when the External Bondholder Steering Committee did announce that the country has clinched a 3.5 billion deal with the country in terms of restructuring in three parts. The country's Euro bonds. I did mention earlier that we're going to have an economist in studio with us, helping us discuss what is debt restructuring, as well as its impact, the forecast of the country's economy going forward, looking at those economic fundamentals where we have seen that inflation as at yesterday rose from 13.5 to 13.7%. Are we going to see some changes going forward? With me in the studio this morning is an economist, Mr. Kelvin Chisanga. Good morning and welcome to the show.
Good morning, thank you so much. Good morning, dear viewers.
Happy holidays, and how is the morning?
Well, it's quite fantastic morning, and we hope to see the good things about Good Friday. Yes.
That's great. Well, viewers, you can be part of this program by utilizing the numbers on the screen. You can join in on the conversation in terms of the Zambia state restructuring process, and also economic performance, as well as Easter. We are accepting Easter because today that is a day, it's a Good Friday, and those holiday messages, they are welcome. Just for starters, Mr. Chisanga, what is debt restructuring? I thought we should just see this issue has been there in the public domain, but still many people don't understand it. We've also blend also into vernacular. What is Easter? What is debt restructuring?
Okay, thank you so much that you have accorded this opportunity to me, and particularly just to explain to the viewers out there at home and in various places, just to understand what is really happening in our economy. Maybe just to begin with, debt restructuring is a process where if you had contracted debt at some point, then obligations were not met as agreed, and many other things that could have happened in terms of certain things that maybe were not meeting up according to the formulation of contractual details. Along the way, you develop a situation where you restructure. The way it used to be, you look at now changing few conditions. It's like Wayaku Banki, when you go to maybe Bank A, that Bank A gives you a loan. At loan tenure it's about 1 year in which you're supposed to make some payment. Numbers you are servicing that loan, at some point you make some default. Mwarefilo kukwanisha kukulipira on time, then that comes now to a certain sense of you know, the structuring, or certain sense of reconsideration, where the two, you yourself and the bank, sit down mwatampo kulanjishanya to see how you can help each other. So this is how debt restructuring works out in this case. And now, coming to the Zambian situation, we understand that Zambia had contracted some loans from different points. Maybe just to give you a context, we basically have what we call a budget. And this budget is funded in 3 parts. Part 1, let's say even running a television station like the way you are doing it, or many other activities that are in business nature or of business nature, you will have a certain percentage that you need to pay to government, what we call tax. It can be in various forms. Chiaba tax yako ati mledi chonkelenganda bamiwa tomlipeni withholding tax. Chiaba tax yako ati mleta import your car bamiwa tilipeni import duty. So all that is some form of tax, and tax in itself also, if you have to maybe create another day, is got different composition. Is what we call indirect tax and direct tax. But for matter of just explaining what I'm trying to refer in terms of the budget, the overall tax basket for Zambia is not enough to run the operations of government affairs. And that being a number 1 part in the funding of the budget, the number 2 part, we've got our donors or our well-wishers. They give us a small portion of help here and there, which occupies about 5% on the budget. So now that 5%, as the way we please the well-wishers and donors, that's when that grant comes. So one other form after the tax, it's a grant. Though a tax is a very good and big portion that we always consider. Like in the case like now, we're considering a tax to be coming at 75%, or that's what we are now projecting to have. Then the portion of 5% is the grant. We cannot meet everything, even when we combine the grants and tax. So now we go to a way of contracting loans to facilitate our budget, to meet those budget, what we call budget deficit. Budget deficit is where we are not able to meet our obligations, like for example, whatever to meet municipatala kutrekwanisha hospitals, kuyawamia, schools, misevo, and all that. Those are elements that comes on the budget as expenditure. They sit on the expenditure columns, and among many others, like in the case that we have right now, even when it comes to ukuforesha, government workers, they get money from that budget. So now, with all this consideration, the other part, which is the last part of debt contraction, debt contraction has got 2 parts. Government bonds, treasury bills, and part of where we get funds into the government to ensure. In fact, it's the same way where we're saying government had to borrow to Zambia. Now, I want to outside Zambia to participate into government bonds to Congo Shempia, so that the government can do their work. Then there is another part that now where we go to multilateral or bilateral players in the market, and this is where we are finding now the World Bank, the IMF, African Development Bank, and many others are under the multilateral players. Then also we got the bilateral, where now to our China as a country, to China, to China, whatever it is, that is a bilateral level. Then there is another now, this part where we go now in the open market. This is where the commercial players now interplay. That's why now you find even the Euro bonds as well. You find the capital market instrument like the Euro bonds I'm talking about, and all this. So this is how the budget actually works out from that perspective. Now, coming back to your question that you had set earlier regarding this budget planning and budget implementation cause for us now to restructure our debts. So ngongole twalefera okushiripira kulingana nafa obligations twapangire mu the third part which I mentioned, third part of financing the budget. So now in this case what really happens is that we have reached a point where we've got low economic profile as a country. We are not able to fire up the engine at full scale to produce in order to actually meet up to the budget and meet up to the obligations of paying, because even our payment to repay those budget, those nkongole ku government bonds, isha multilateral and isha ku commercial lenders, has to come from the budget as well. So meaning after we have filled all that, now we are coming to the table to say, can you give us breathing space? Let us see work tuwombe so that netwawombesha tukwate kukalaka good return in the economy, so that we upscale the industries and all these other activities that we can do. Even when the basket for tax also is ballooned in a way, then we'll be able now to start meeting up the payment. So this is what we are trying now to do, to rearrange the terms and conditions. Instead of us making the payment where it was supposed to be done, since we have even failed many times and we are also slapped with the interest on the penalties, we are now trying to negotiate all those conditions that are coming as effects of failure in a way. So that's what it is with the budget arrangement or budget restructuring. So now we have therefore restructured, which is now coming as a good complementary effect to the economy, meaning that we are able now to meet up some of the obligations as and when they fall due. Meaning in the near future, we should be able to meet some of these obligations without any failure. There is no budget, there is no debt cancellation this time, like the way we experienced it in the previous years, where we are at the epic completion point under the President Levi Mwanawasa and of course the Minister Ngandu Magande. Yeah, so going forward, we are basically looking forward to see how we can push for moratorium a good space of time, so at that space of time we can land the turbines of the economy to start firing up and give the obligation as they fall due.
All right, well explained there, Mr. Sanga. Viewers, we are discussing Zambia state restructuring deal. We did understand that on Monday, the debt restructuring process did receive a boost after the external bondholder steering committee reached an agreement with Zambia in terms of restructuring the $3.5 billion Euro bonds. Moving on, Mr. Sanga, you have touched a bit on the impact. Maybe we can just delve into the impact, because there are many sentiments that are coming up as regards to this development. There seems to be a division. We did have an interview with you earlier in the week where you touched on this issue. Maybe you can just elaborate on that discussion. What does this mean to Zambia's economic factors and also macro stability issues?
Okay, so we have understood clearly very well that from the onset, Zambia has been facing a challenging factor around, firing up this economic, the economic activities. And what we have seen that our case was compounded with so many situations, the COVID issue, even some other things. But looking at the way the debt issue was actually sitting, it was one of the biggest element on the stake. Meaning that at some point, I would say the aspect of having this debt issue as a non-starter in a way that we could not find an amicable solution, it was actually choking the growth of this economy. And much more, we understand very well that the credit rating is one of the critical elements that actually interplay into some of these financial needs. And if you do not have a good credit capacity, you'll not be able to actually attract investors that should be able to flock into this economy to actually help with employment and to help with the capital injection as well. And much more so to create that atmosphere of learning, productivity, skills around most of the industrial activities, or even when it comes to business sense of investment, we need to also have some bit of confidence around this. So if the credit rating is affected in that where we are in default, that also signals a very bad element to the market. And that is the reason why if you are to maybe assess, we had a very poor performance on within the bond market. Even when it comes to government giving a good appetite around interest and all that, we could not see a huge participation. Then coming also from the bond market as well, we had also a very bad effect within the forex market. If you recall, the whole entire last year from January to December, the kwacha could not sustain in any slightest or a nominal appreciation, because we were losing out all the time, and it almost made about 40% loss, the whole entire aggregate loss. Now, when we look at all those factors, the financial market were faced with a lot of fatigue. This strong element of fatigue actually was also interplaying into the business of Zambians, meaning at some point inflation kept moving up, and that is what we have actually been cultivated up to now, because this is linked direct to different verticals of the economy. Meaning when you talk about financial issues, that's when now the Bank of Zambia was also very aggressive on it to say we are not going to let this inflation do this thing to our economic patterns. We need to fight it, and by so doing, they were raising the cost of doing business through the policy rate, meaning that what this debt was creating, it was making a very strong filter through to all the other sectors of the economy. Even when it comes to microeconomic stability, it cannot be attained without taking a steady step toward this, and activating ourselves to these efforts of trying to ensure that the debt issue comes to sustainable means. It means we are creating a very good microeconomic environment where inflation will be anchored, exchange market will be stabilized, interest also will work around within certain parameters which will be manageable terms. And not only that, also even when you look at the overall factors around the budget itself, maybe if I can also come back to the budget. The budget was squeezed. You can imagine we had three parts that were critical on the budget in terms of expenditure, and we know that government function is supposed to be in multiple ways. We had one, something occupying about 50% paying the government workers, then 9% going to agriculture, tourism, education, health, name it. That was a small fraction which was actually occupying government expenditure towards sectors to revitalize some of the activities that need to be censored from there. Then you can imagine we've got 40% occupying servicing of the debt. So this was choking much of what we should be able to see. So even when you look at the issues of cost pressure around food and all that, it's also coming from there as well, because we could not pumping a lot of money into agriculture. We could not pumping a lot of money into some other sectors to just rubricate all those sectors and seeing that we should be able to make economic good out of that. So you can imagine where you are spending 9% into your economy, then you are taking 40% to service the debts, then you are taking 50% paying government workers. So that was something that was very bad. But if you are taking it to maybe about 33% paying debts, then you lump up your support into social sector protection like agriculture, tourism, and many others. Then we are also doing something better, like in the case of what we have restructured. So meaning that we have created a breathing space for us to get some financial resources into other critical sectors that are required to be attended to. And this is what is actually coming on the table. So it's most like when you get it home, in a house, munganda, let's say you get 50,000, 100,000 kwacha as your pay. If you get 50,000 kwacha, you pay your workers at your home. Then you get 9% to buy tomato, bunga, shani, and all that. You'll find that you won't be able to meet from 1 to 1. Then you get the 40% to pay one Kongole. Then already that is not something that is sustainable. So now we needed to actually rearrange some of these so that we have a good breathing space. If we can even have something like 25% paying toward the debts, then that will even be better for Zambia.
Now, sentiments, in terms of sentiments from other stakeholders, they are politicians and also some other just economists, especially politicians, they are saying we are theorizing the suffering of Zambians. We had an interview with Economic Front President, Mr. Winter Kabimba, who was saying that the debt restructure, in as much as it is welcome, he sees the celebration of this development as theorizing the suffering of Zambians. Only actions that are meant to grow production are going to improve, such as improving the cost of living and others. How did we have another option away from this issue?
The challenge that I found out, and I'll be very categorical in stating this, the biggest factor, biggest enemy in our midst is the way we have politicized the economy. Yeah, if politics is actually occupying a larger space, even on economic matters, then it becomes difficult for us to actually move forward. And this is the same politics that has created the problems in our business and investment environment. What we need to do, of course, yes, politicians are attached very much to economic policies, but there must be a way in which we should also politicize some of these things that are critically important for us to change this country. I can tell you, maybe I may sound something else, but the bottom line is, yes, it can also have a criticism, considering that the nature of what is happening is more to do with politics. It was created by politicians who were contracting, who were involved. But again, also there is a need for political voice to hear the voice of economic matters well, where we need also to ensure that the economic system should also be prioritized in their deliberations and ensuring that the best way should be able to be done. A flip side, maybe as a matter of interest or peculiar interest in this way, the same politicians, if the debt restructuring process was actually failed, they will be the one that could have even been celebrating. But now it's successful, they are complaining. That's what I can tell you. But the bottom line here is that as a nation, as patriotic Zambian, we need to be very happy of what is happening, because we have seen how this debt has really choked the economy. And much of what we're seeing as effect that are coming strongly from this debt question that we had. Then coming back to the effect, obviously, yes, we cannot be able to pull ourselves from the current economic quagmire, considering that what we have, it's most like Namkwate Chironda. Right? So that is what we are also facing. We are facing a situation where we cannot pull ourselves quickly out of this situation, but bit by bit we are considering things happening here. Maybe I can give you also a snapshot. If you look at 2021 election, after election, and 2026, this was already considered a bumpy road. Even if it happened to be a PF who could have carried a day, they were going to face the same situation. But how things have been handled and how things would have handled, it's now you two and the other people to tell. But the bottom line here is the economy, where from the time when we found ourselves into this unsustainable debt contraction, compounding with the other external factors like COVID and many others that have actually come to the fore, was actually facing a number of challenging factors. Already, we know that Zambia as a nation has not been able to produce to the full capacity, and even utilizing certain resources to to the fullest scale. We have not been able to do that. So it's high time we also need to appreciate the little effort that we are also seeing from other people. We need to appreciate also what other people are doing. I think that's the best way we can actually be able to do things. I am not a politician and I don't like to comment on political line, but the bottom line is we need to be more patriotic to our nation. Even when it comes to politicizing, I think we need to politicize with the deep sense of life and ensuring that we have the best interests at heart for this nation. Zambia in totality has a lot of, it's a basket of opportunity. And we need to ensure that we interplay into the opportunities of this nation so that we are able to actually make good economic gains as Zambians and pull ourselves from the current situation. You know, I will be very honest with you, maybe I can even mention this to you right on this platform. I like the step in which maybe the former government used to do, the former PF in particular. They had the program which I was watching last night on Millennium TV, where they are talking of solutions of what they used to do. If it's coming in goodwill, that's the best way. We need to embrace each other and work together. I think that's the best way we should be able to work as Zambia, to have that harmony and come with the solution, but not where politics takes a larger space. And in fact, for me, I think it's an appeal even to the media. Let's occupy more business talks, investment-centered discussion, as opposed to have more political aspirations and all those issues. Because you see, what I've seen, most of the politicians, they are self-centered and have got, most of them have got self-aggrandizement agenda. So if we can look at the best way we can save this nation is to remove ourselves from political jacket and offer solutions to the table. And even the current government, I think there's a need for the current government to embrace everyone on the table, have that stiff stakeholder engagement, and ensure that we actually do the best, you know, by ensuring that we have everyone's voice on the table. As long as there is a good optional you know, solution that should be able to be put on the table, I think for us to learn this nation, we cannot just count one type of group as monopolies of knowledge. We also need knowledge from diverse, and this is what it actually calls for us to look at. And now coming back to the aspect of the effect, obviously the debt destruction process is now restoring a lot of fundamentals, a lot of key matters, confidence being built, and also ensuring that we do the correct job. You see, the good part which I'm seeing here is, if we start criticizing the debt destruction process, can we also go down to assess where this money went to? I think that's a very, very fair question. You know, the issue is, you are criticizing how it has been structured. They are not looking at where this money came from or where it went. So, you know, being a patriotic Zambian, I think we need to forge ahead. Whatever happened. Let's look at the best that we can create for this nation.
Talking about forging ahead, the restructuring entails that we are going to be paying in bits, and of course spread the years. Let's talk about critical sectors of the economy that this country, that you feel we must focus on to ensure that we raise the required resources to be servicing the debt as well as managing the country in a well-structured manner.
Well, the good consolation here is that Zambia, even when we were approaching the IMF, of course, I'll be very categorical telling you to say that in as much as we may consider IMF to be something else by so many sentiments, but I'll tell you the truth. The truth is that the help of IMF has really made things to even work out to this level. IMF acted as a forgance to make sure that the debt restructuring process is speed up. And they came to iodize the effect that the debt aspect was carrying. Right now, we are talking of coming up with policy framework which should be able to govern how we need to do the future contraction of loans, and many others. IMF was right in the center, trying to make that technical benchmark and ensure that we have the best that can come out of that. And going forward, we've got a model in which, one, we have implemented the parliamentary pass-out model, which we should be able to work out. We have also harmonized issues of multiple contraction, which was happening. You may be privy to know that the bridge at Makenimo, the bridge at Longekas, Munali, and the arcades, these were part of the loans that came in the form of projects, and that money could not eat into the treasury. There are so many other cases of that nature. So what I'm trying to say is that that loan was contracted through the local government, you see. But in the case now, the principal contractor, principal agents should be the Ministry of Finance.
Yes.
So we are trying also to harmonize such issues of multiple contraction of debts or loans from different angles. We want the ministry to actually be the actor.
To be streamlined, because the challenge is that one might be contracting and the other one might be contracting.
Yes, so that is where we're coming from, and this is where the power of our loan comparison is actually in place in this way, where we've got different points. Even when you look at the Eurobonds themselves, the reason why we have even had a situation where there has been protracted discussion around the debt issue, especially the Eurobonds, we are quite toughest in the sense that there are multiplicity of parties involved there. Fund managers, investors, from insurance, from bank, so that compilation of even pensioners as well were into that. So that's the reason why, even when it came to the issue of trying to settle down around how we should be able to work out the terms of reference and conditions, it became that case of.
On a lighter note on that part, it's not the issue where you say, let's sit on a round table. You should sit on different tables, whereby you are involving that one. That was the challenge.
Yes. So that is what has actually made all this. But as we talk, we are at 75% of debt restructuring processing, and we know that the last part that is remaining of the commercial lenders will also be compelled to the same compatibility of treatment of the loans in a similar pattern with the G20 common framework. So basically, because some loans were also commercial in nature, and this is where now we've actually been having a situation of going back and forth. But as it is right now, I think it's a light move that we have underscored. This is a significant milestone for Zambia, and it's a case in a different way because it has never happened in the Zambian case. So we are also getting to have this as a template to other countries like Ghana, who are facing the similar situation, Kenya. Even despite ascensions that are there to say that the Eurobonds in most countries did not land. But again, also, we cannot just start and doing some of these things. The best is how to work out a solution which should be able to model a good temperament on the effect. Because the effect right now has been moderated in this case. So meaning that even when it comes to economic growth, maybe let's face other situations that can come. But as it is right now, we are talking of this to be behind our back so that we can soldier on and see what we can do for this nation.
You moved to my next question, which was going to be my next question in terms of future borrowing, the importance of sticking to the Public Finance Management Act, which requires Parliament to approve some of these issues, but you have tackled that issue. My question then was, what key areas, as we conclude the program, what key areas you feel that we must focus on to leverage in terms of revenue for the Zambia Revenue Authority and also just for economic performance as we work at repayments going forward?
Okay, before you jump on the areas we need to work around, maybe just give you a snapshot of what really transpired between the budget for last year and budget for this year. Last year's budget, as I hinted, it had 3 parts, and we are committing a very huge sum of money. I think in total we are talking of something like, if I'm not mistaken, we are committing billions of kwacha, but that drastically reduced into this year. We are talking of where we are spending. I think we have reduced about the 3% in terms of paying debts in this budget. We're talking of servicing the domestic market or local debts to about 18 billion. Then we are talking of external debts to about 6 billion, which is actually a very good thing. And coming now to the issue of sector that we need to look at, obviously we know that Zambia has potential within the mining sector, owing to the fact that there is that cycle boom around copper and few many other critical minerals that we are using into energy transition. And much also to this is that the mining still stands to be half-bit in terms of trying to work around few many others, and even the discovery of few many other minerals that are coming on board. That signifies the importance of this sector. Even despite getting to have the mining also recording with the reduction in terms of production, that also is one thing that now we need to also start looking. How can we make the mines start working out to the best expectations? What we have seen, even when you look at the last year's performance of the budget mining output, we are talking of 20% reduction as compared to any other, despite even giving the mining a good policy atmosphere. Because you see, the tax regime within the mining sector of mineral royalties have actually been signaled to be something that can actually scale up the production, but alas, we have found it in a very different situation. And even to hear, I'm sure you must have heard from the Central Statistic saying that it has shrunk, meaning the issues to do with administrative and productive elements around the mining sector has really not given that liberating power. So now, coming back to the other sector also, we need to ensure that we have good policy instrumentation around agriculture, tourism, transport, many other. Even now, when it comes to road infrastructure, yes, there is a need also for us, since there is a 8 billion in this budget for this year to work on roads. I think there's a need for us to look at now maintaining some of the roads that are critical. We've seen that some of the roads are facing a lot of challenges. So that also should be coming handy to facilitate the smooth passage of goods and services. The importance that we need to press here is agriculture. Agriculture plays a very critical and vital role ensuring that we have got food security, even to buffer into the regional market, which has so much of the standing potential. We need to ensure that we have the best that we can do from there. I think Samina muri fionse nandoko ati ndatuaposa sana amani mungulimi. It will really help us so much to change the narrative of this country. I think if you are to even take maybe at that level of leadership or government as a whole, if they push a lot of efforts around agriculture, I think they will be able to even surpass some of the bad sentiment that we're able to see. Then coming to tourism, we know that tourism has not been given so much of the validation that we need to see. We need to go to a lot of having health tourism, sports tourism, mining tourism. Those are additions that we need to start now looking at. Zambia has got a very good formulation around some of these key fundamentals. And then we also need to ensure that we have the best production. We need to invite some of the biggest players in the market to ensure that they start manufacturing some of the things that we normally import most of the times, which drives the dollar crazy, I mean the quarter crazy. So now what we need also to do is to ensure that we put a lot of things in place. The best now to do as a Zambian Central Bank is also to look at how best can we sustain the kwacha. We need to look at a sustainable way of making kwacha survive most of the times. We don't need to have kwacha having some seasonal demands from time to time. Like December, November, and all those times. It goes this way. It becomes a pattern. We need to find a way of how we can make this sit down, ensure that it has the best way it can perform. Then lastly, and the most important thing, Zambia need now to widen the basket in terms of export, ensuring that we have a good wallet around the export market. participating fully with good policies, and also we ensure that we have the best interest around those who are producing, going into the export market, support them even to a point where they are going to the Congo market, provide security to them and ensure that they are also protected in a way. And much also to the aspect that we need to do is to ensure that let's support infant industries, give them tax holiday, especially those who are interplaying from the local point of view. Let the indigenous be the front to take up some of the policies, some of the industry activities that need to be safeguarded for this nation. And much more now is to see how we can scale our participation in some of the critical sectors of the economy, ensure that Zambians should be able to be put in key strategic places, and that's what we need to look at. So maybe lastly, I would say, I think it's high time also, as Zambians, we need to start looking at how can we develop our nation. We should not just be looking at developing the nation from a pot-belly point of view. Let's develop the nation. Even when you are serving government, if you are not getting anything or something substantially big for yourself, I think Zambia is larger than anyone else. We need to look at that. The best that we should be able to do is to service this nation without looking at your family, but look at the bigger family. I think that's what we should be able to look at. Yes.
Mr. Tsanga, thank you very much for having joined us this morning. On that note, we have come to the end of the program. I think we have discussed this matter to a larger extent, and it has been conclusive, and we hope that our viewers out there did get one or two things. This morning we are discussing the debt restructuring journey at the point where we are, what does it mean for the country, and Mr. Tsanga has elaborated a number of issues that this the 3.5 billion Eurobond restructuring is going to anchor a number of economic factors such as touch on inflation, and also the Kwacha is able to, at least as we move forward, we're going to be seeing some of these things come into acceptable range. From myself, Afias Kaptula, with this we have come to the end of the program for this morning. However, keep watching Camnet TV, and happy holidays. Remember, the reason for these celebrations, it is Jesus Christ. From my producer and myself, and also the director, who is Elijah Chipita, keep watching Camnet TV.